So today we're going to have a look at the inner game. The inner game is a phrase coined by somebody called Tim Gallwey in the early 1970s, and his ideas have gone on to influence not just the world of tennis where he started, but also a whole variety of other worlds, including of course the world of work. And his philosophy created a whole way of looking at the relationship between people's potential and their performance. One particular model we're going to look at today is this equation that we have up here on the board. And I'll just walk you through it. Then Charles and I are going to do a quick demonstration as to how you might use it within a coaching conversation, and then finish off with some top tips about how you might use it and our experience of using it with coachees. So here you have three elements. The first one is potential, and Tim's proposition, that many of us may well agree with, is that everybody has huge potential to perform or to learn how to perform. So huge potential wrapped up in every human being. Down here we have performance. That's what happens when we apply our potential fully in the world. So that could be work performance, it could be our performance as a family member, our contribution to society, it could be a variety of different things. But often Tim noticed that there were things that got in the way, that potential did not necessarily equal performance all the time. And the things that got in the way he termed interferences. And he made a distinction between those interferences that were outer game, so things that came from the outside in, like resources, money, availability of things that could help you, the kind of relationships that promoted a particular performance being turned in, things that came from the outside in, so outer game interferences. And he also then said, well, there are also things that are inside the person seeking to perform. Things like fear and self-doubt, anxiety, really the responses that we have to the challenges that we face. And this is very instructive for us as coaches, and it's instructive in two ways. It helps us understand our purpose as coaches, because, of course, if we can reduce the interferences, then more of potential, our potential, and the potential of the person that we're working with becomes available to turn into their performance. So that's the first way of looking at it, a way of looking at the purpose of a coach. But of course it's useful with clients, because clients have interferences that we would like them to understand more about in order that they can support themselves in reducing those interferences and again turn more of their potential into their performance. So that's the idea, and we'll come back to talk about more about how we might use it. Just after a very brief demonstration, Charles, with you, if I may. So you've got a very small topic. We're just going to use this kind of structure to order the conversation. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your topic is?
Yes, I got a chance the last couple of evenings to play some tennis, and it's been a while since I played tennis. Used to play it a lot professionally, years and years ago, and I've just got out of the habit of playing. My coach, the coach I used to hit with once a week, moved away, and I've just not restarted. So it's been 18 months, nearly 2 years since I've played, and having played last night, I realised how much I miss it. Okay.
So how many times do you play at the moment? What's your what's the regularity?
So the last 2 nights, prior to that I hadn't played for 18 months.
Okay. So that big a gap?
Yeah.
Okay. So twice in 18 months?
Correct.
Okay. So would that be a fair description of the current state, the current level of performance, if you like?
Were you talking about my tennis performance, or are we talking about my ability to play, get on the tennis court?
That's the outcome you've got at the moment. That's the number of times you're playing. Okay, and by implication, you want to increase that number, is that?
Yeah, no, I'd really like to get back into the habit, the rhythm of playing, maybe once a week.
So that's, in a sense, the potential that you see. You could be playing once a week?
Yeah.
And that's the ideal?
Yes, well, I think, now I think about it, I'm kind of semi-retiring in 2.5 years' time, and actually I really want to be playing a lot of tennis then, and playing it well, maybe playing some competitions. Okay. So really, if I want to do that, I should be getting going now, so I'm, hitting some tennis balls on a regular basis. Yeah.
Okay. So, and you said once a week. Is that in the next year or so, or 2 years running up to your retirement?
Yeah, once a week would be great, and realistic, I think.
Okay, once a week.
Yes.
Any other aspiration that you have for your tennis in the next period?
I'd like to be able to also keep it going if I have to travel. So if I have to travel somewhere, try and make sure there's a tennis courts at the venue I travel to, and that I arrange a game with the pro or whatever as I'm traveling. So it's just playing regularly and sustaining that.
Okay. So tell me, what is getting in the way now, and what you sense might get in the way in the future?
So one thing is that as I mentioned earlier, I got into a real rhythm with playing with a pro who moved away.
Yeah.
So one interference is that I don't there are other pros at the tennis club where I'm a member. It's a country club and they have tennis there. But I've not really kind of reached out and made relationships with any of them and fixed up tennis. That's an interference.
So lack of a pro. Okay. Yeah. What else?
There is. My wife used to play a bit, so we used to play together. She's not playing now and doesn't want to. Okay. So that becomes an interference because it's not something we can do together. Okay. Another one is now it's getting into the kind of the cold months in England, and so it's going to be having the motivation to go out on a wet, drizzly evening and play tennis. That's an interference.
So the weather. And what about the things that are going on inside you? I hear those more as outer game interferences, and you implied a kind of response to that. So tell me more about what's going on inside you.
I mean, there's something around motivation. The motivation of going out and playing in the rain. I would, if I was really motivated, I'd do whatever. Yeah. There is. I go to the gym a lot, and it's kind of like, do I go to the gym less and play more tennis? Again, that comes down to prioritization and I guess the will to make it happen.
The will to make it happen. Yeah. Okay. I'm wondering, from all of those interferences that you've just described very briefly, what's one thing that you could do to reduce one or more of those interferences?
I think the biggest thing for me is to just book a hitting session with one of the pros, actually maybe with each of them, so I can find which one I have a really good relationship with, because Steve, who I used to hit with, great guy, really got on well with him, and so that's what I should do. If there was one thing to do, make an appointment during my Christmas break to have a hit with each of the pros. Okay, and each of the two pros, is that there are two? I can't remember whether there's 2 or 3, but yeah, 2 or 3. Okay. I don't know how many there are at the club at the moment.
When might you make that appointment?
Yeah, so I'm not going to do anything until the Christmas break. So I'll arrange it over the Christmas break.
So that's in a week's time when you're off. Is that right? When you get off?
From the 20th.
So from the 20th. Okay, great. So that's one thing that you could do to reduce. Is it one thing you're going to do?
Yeah, no, definitely committed to do that.
Okay, great.
I think the other thing is around the motivation is I work quite well with the rewards. So if I kind of committed to myself, if I manage to play once a week between Christmas and Easter, let's say, that I go and buy myself something nice.
Something nice? What would something nice be?
Oh, a nice car or something like that.
A nice car?
No, I don't know.
That's a fairly bold present.
maybe a new set of tennis rackets or maybe a fishing rod.
Ah, another fishing rod. Excellent. Okay, so a bit of a prize for making more progress is an enticement to reduce that interference.
Exactly.
Okay, you happy to stop there?
Yeah.
Great. So I think, well, hopefully you got a chance to see that in action in a very simple way. And we could have gone on, of course, that could have been the basis of a number of different conversations. And Charles was describing both the outer game interference as well as the inner game, and actually focused on 2 interferences that he could reduce and how he might go about reducing those 2. So hopefully you've seen that in action now. Charles?
Yeah, so David, it's easiest for us to think as coaches around using this as a tool with a coachee, but it works fantastically well with a team. So, helping a team understand what their interferences are to performance. An organization as a totality, or maybe a department, an area. In just like you said early on, in many ways this is what we do as coaches. We just help people, organizations, teams reach their potential. Yeah. And a simple tool, but a really effective one.
Yes. And I think there's also a philosophy that sits behind this about how the person who's seeking to perform can create a better performance by managing their own interference. Yeah. And so there's a whole philosophy behind it which we would encourage people to find out more about. It's a very simple set of ideas, but this model is a really useful, simple one to share with clients. Works very well. I
think just like you've done here, just drawing it up and just getting clients to work through it works so well.
And the killer question, which I find works very well, is how much of your potential are you turning into performance? What's the percentage? And people are very clear, actually, that often it's 50, 60%. So there's so much opportunity to improve.
And how about your performance today?
Yeah, I think it was right up there. Thank you very much for the question. Okay, so thank you very much. We recommend this little tool to you, and good luck using it.